There has been an incredible amount of hype and excitement regarding PvE for Flesh and Blood. Content creators have been making videos about it for the last 4 years. I made a couple of videos, people online, and everyone's talking about PvE. It's going to be the next big thing, right? When PvE comes out, nobody's going to play Classic Constructed. Well, nobody said that, but people have been hyping up PvE to a very large extent. And I'm here to just go over a simplistic thing of saying, hey, can we all just dial it down a little bit? Just lower your expectations, just a wee bit. I feel like the community overall in Flesh and Blood has been excited for it, which is a good thing. But I think we've put it on such a high pedestal, especially because we've had to wait so long since it was first announced, or when we first heard about a supposed PvE coming out, that we just feel like it's been polished the last 4 years, that our expectations are way high, and we need to just come back to the realm of just, okay, like, it's gonna be good, right? And let me be perfectly clear. Let me be crystal clear with my belief system. Do I think that Legend Story Studios, James White and team, are going to make an excellent gaming experience with a PvE for Flesh and Blood? Yes. Yes. Do I think it's going to be the best PvE experience out of any TCG that has ever been created? Yes. Do I think that people are going to enjoy the experience of PvE and have a good time? Yes, I think it's going to be developed very well. But I think that at this current time, right, just the whole narrative from Legend Story Studios is they haven't really tried at all to hype this up. They've just said, hey, we did a side event in 2019, beat the car, or did basically kill an enemy in a certain amount of time windows. It wasn't like really drawn out PvE, but it's been in development for a good amount of time, but it's not going to be released till it's ready, which makes sense. But they haven't like tried to be like, hey, this is good. They haven't hyped it up internally. And that's, the big thing I really want to explain is that a lot of the hype is around the content creator realm and the people out there in the ether. And it is exciting, but it's just, you just got to dial it down a little bit. And one of my first points that I want to make regarding this whole thing and PvE is a lot of people use the term PvE. Player versus environment, player versus enemy, you pick. But PvE is really an RPG. It's like D&D. I'm using all these little acronyms, right? So RPG is a role play game. Role play is very inherent to the people who are playing. The gaming experience is very contingent on who you are playing with to maximize the amount of fun and enjoyment of the game, right? And I think that that's a really good point to really point out in the beginning. I feel like a lot of people are going to sit down, play PvE for Flesh and Blood, and have these expectations of like, okay, I just have to follow the game rules and I'm going to have fun. That's not how it works. If you've ever played D&D, Pathfinder, any of these RPG type PvE element games, it's very contingent on the people you're playing with to just have a good time and encompass that, right? It's not like you just follow the rule set and you are going to have fun, which is a very different aspect than any other games, right? It's a very social game where you are just hanging out with friends or people or maybe it's a bunch of random people, but you have a character that you're embodying, that you're role playing as, and you have fun. You're just encompassing that character and interacting with this fictional environment that's being portrayed by a dungeon master, right? So I think that what I'm trying to really relay here is that the amount of fun that you have with the PvE of Flesh and Blood will most likely be who is in the room with you, who you're playing with, right? I don't think that you can make a gaming experience as like 4 people versus a thing and you're just trying to maximize damage and one person is taking like an 8-minute turn to try to maximize the damage against a thing. Like, that's not going to be as fun, right? It's going to be the story elements, what's happening in the storyline, where does it go and everything, and how does your character interact with the other characters, and speaking from the point of view of your character, and doing different actions in the world from your character. That's what I can imagine. So that's my main point, is that even though PvE is going to be a well-designed gaming experience, I think that if Flesh and Blood is more of an RPG, which I think it will be, right? The RPG story elements, and you are a character playing as them, there's going to be a lot of situations where when you're playing it, the level of fun that you have is primarily determinant on you and the people who we're playing with versus the rule set that you follow. There's a lot of these RPG games out there that you can play that have really like not very well developed mechanics and everything, but people can have a fuckload of fun because the people in the room are just hanging out playing. They roll a d20 and they're like, ah, that crit. It's the room, right? There's a reason why that show Critical Role out there, right? There's a reason why they get millions of views where other people who are playing this in their basement don't. It's because the people in that room are all voice actors acting things out, making a narrative experience, hanging out with each other and talking as friends. It really just shows that you can play D&D just like them in your room and not have as good of a time, because it's really just about the setting and the people you're with. So I think that should be really transparent to the people who are playing the Flesh and Blood version that will come out eventually. And another thing is, to Legend Story Studios, I really hope people are able to create their own characters. I've said this in the past. This is a little side note here. I think when people have individuality of, hey, I created my own character and I made the story elements for them and I know their personality because I created it, I think they're going to have a much better time with custom built characters than pre-built characters that you have in your story, like Oldhim and Lexi and what have you, and Bravo, and essentially, like, it's gonna. I think it's okay to have that as be an option. Like, you can play as Bravo if you want, but maybe instead you're Bravo's roommate, Alfonso, right? Alfonso, the circus clown who likes to smoke cigarettes or something. You can build these narratives. Who has a penchant for stealing things that are silver in nature and hoarding it under an apple tree that his family has owned in his yard. Things like that. You can make certain characters and you have an attachment to them because you created them. That's my side note. That's what I really hope to see. Now, my second main point that I want to make in this video about PvE, this really goes to Legend Story Studios. Like, I know that Legend Story Studios likes to make things out there that are top notch in the industry, and they don't half-ass shit. They full-ass everything they do, and that's what I really love about them as a studio and why I really love their products, because they're really damn good. There's a lot of heart and soul that's put into this, a lot of passion, a lot of painstaking passion, and it really shows. It really shows. And I think that when you're making trading cards, right, it's really tough to put this out there, because once you put this out there, it's out there. Like, all the rules and the text are right here, and you can't really update that or errata this after the fact. I think that PvE is going to be different. Think about D&D, Pathfinder, all those, what have you. They have different versions. They're in D&D Volume 5, right? You can make different renditions of a gaming experience for RPGs and PvE. And that's my main point. It was just my second point here, is that it's okay to make things that aren't perfect, right? And again, it really speaks back to the level of fun and experience is going to be about the people in the room. And I think that there should be a big ass disclaimer in the front of whatever book or text that you're doing. It's like, hey, like, you kind of have to try hard, on your end. It's kind of up to the people, because you can make the best rule set ever, but if you don't tell the people who are playing, who aren't really more familiar with that aspect of PvE, like I've played D&D. I was in a campaign, oh man, about 8 years ago, and it was a lot of fun in college. and I had a lot of fun with friends. Just drank a bunch of beers, stayed up super late, had a lot of fun. But it was the company that I was surrounded with. I don't have time for that now. I wish I did. I mean, you could have like 4 hour stretches of games, but the whole point of this is like, yeah, just I would definitely say something in the beginning to that extent, but you don't have to hammer it through to people's heads like, here's how you have fun. If you don't, then that's on you. It's more of like, hey, like this is a social experience. You're supposed to. I don't know. You'll figure that shit out. But I think it's okay that it gets released on like Fab PVE 1.0. Send the books out. People play it for 5 years. You have erratas here and there to the book and what have you. And then after 5 years, you make PVE 2.0, and maybe you change the system up in big ways, different ways here or there. But the cards stay the same. You have all the cards. It's just the background rule system is changed, which is completely different philosophy than when you're making a card game. When you're making a card game and you're making a competitive game, competitive players don't like when the rule set change. That hurts the brain. It's supposed to be the same type of rule set, through and through. And I think they've made a really damn good competitive playing PvP game. Now for the PvE elements, I think that I hope LSS isn't afraid to put something out there that is their best work, but can evolve over time, can have different versions. It doesn't have to be, this is the only way to play the PvE, like this gaming system that we created, and then that's the end all be all. I think it would be more than okay to have in 5-10 years after you create the first edition, hey, make a second edition. This is a different mechanics and game systems to play with the same cards, and here are the different modules that we have, the storylines and what have you that you can go on. I think that would be more okay. I don't know if they want to go that direction, just due to the fact that it's nice to have stuff set in stone. I can definitely see that, but it's definitely an option. It's definitely an option to put 1.0 out first, then 2.0, then 3.0. And it really kind of spices it up, if you will. I don't know if just rambling on at the end here. I don't know if anyone knows about D&D 4E, but a lot of people who played 3.0 hated it. The 3.0 people hated 4.0, and the reason why is because 4.0 was geared more towards video game players. It had like abilities that were sectioned off, like video game abilities, like a tech tree, and they didn't like that as much. I liked it because I played video games as a kid. It was cool. And then 5e, I didn't really like 5e as much. I didn't like it, but that's me being biased. I grew up with 4e, so I'm used to the rule set and everything like that. Whereas 5e just did, it was a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more simplified, which is probably better. But it was a little bit more confusing how they outlined it. But it's all good. I definitely play it. But if I played 5e, I can guarantee you, if I had fun, it was because of the people in the room, right? If I don't have fun, I'm not gonna think, oh well, it was how the game was designed. Like that was a miss. Now I will admit though, something that really is important though is storyline elements, the narrative, and also like the way, I don't know if they're gonna have a dungeon master in Flesh and Blood PVE, but just the way that the story elements unfold and the different decision trees and such like that goes through, that's definitely going to be important. And I know that Legend Story Studios is going to do a good job on that, but it's going to be interesting. And I think that will really open up the the lore a lot more in the game, I bet, and we'll understand a lot more through going through those campaigns, which will be interesting. So that's it. Let me know what you think. But overall, just to summarize, I do think that Flesh and Blood Legend Story Studios is going to make an excellent gaming experience. I don't want to discount that at all. But from what I've seen out there in the ether, I feel like a lot of the community is hyped this shit up so much, right? And we've had these, the pedestal is so high that at this, because we think that it's being polished and polished and polished, that we just lower your expectations a little. It's going to be a great gaming experience, but if you look at the side of Legend Story Studios, they haven't tried to hype it up. They haven't tried to make it seem like it's going to be the end all be all. They're like, hey, we're working on it, and when it's done, we'll put it out there, which I think is which I think is makes sense. So let me know what you think. Cheers, man.